block in the back, which I did see, which, they were too ill about it, but they called it and brought the ball back to midfield. And Philly couldn't capitalize. Ended up losing the game by 3 points.
Darren Sproles penalty shouldn't have been called, in my opinion, because I've seen worse push-offs and they weren't called.
It was a hell of a catch, but that was definitely a bad push-off. I would have called that one. But, just ugly penalties here and there, and the worst part was the drops. I mean, I think by the end, the commentator said there were 9 drops, and you can't have that. It was in key moments of the game. Ertz was being double covered. Aguilar was doing his best to get open and do his thing. He had an awesome touchdown. If those of you that haven't seen Aguilar crossing route, broke a tackle about 10, put the click on, we're into the end zone.
It was beautiful.
Dave, are you raiding the refrigerator again? Because all I can hear is like the
nope,
sound of
I'm changing my son's diaper while I'm on the show, so I'm multitasking.
Oh my gosh!
Oh my god!
I can hear the tape being ripped off his ass. That's just unfortunate for him. It's like a
good God, it's a rainbow bag. It's wipes.
It's like a grizzly bear attacking a poor child in the wilderness.
No, it's just changing a diaper.
Well, that's not what it sounds like.
The awkward, heavy breathing was too much.
Well, I'm a heavy breather. It's called I'm fat.
Well, I'm just saying.
Thank you, Dylan. God damn it.
This sounded like you're...
Hey, you don't cuss.
Over there.
Oh, you kill me sometimes.
But anywho.
Go ahead there, Dylan.
Well, in our fantasy league, Jay, you're in a pretty tight one here with shady moves. Meanwhile, Dave's got a nice comfortable lead on Chris, but he's still got a few players going. We'll see how that pans out for you guys. I'm ahead of Edmonton Bills. He's not having a good game.
Jones not having any rushing yards killed me, and then I'm just not getting the production. I need a running back bad. Frank Gore came through as a guy I picked up on the waivers, but I need a
Do you mean you shouldn't have picked Mahomes and Rodgers and at least picked a higher running back?
No, because there was the running backs that were available when I took those guys were basically the same guys that I had. Sorry.
Boy, 19 touchdowns, 19 touchdowns. 19.
Well, I would say that's a day.
That would be a hell of a day, but yeah, saved you with 2 touchdowns there, so that's awesome. Gore got into the end zone, and we were talking about MVS, so that was a good play there. Unfortunately, Hollywood Brown didn't show up today.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm depending on Mr. Metcalf, so he's already had a big catch. So.
And in other fantasy news, some surprise performances. You had Tony Pollard scoring about 20 fantasy points with 100 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, coming in garbage time against the Dolphins. And Zach Pascal scoring a touchdown put him in 13 fantasy points. And big injuries, you had Julian Edelman-Lee with a chest injury. You had Keanu Neal carted off with an Achilles injury. This is all according to the sleeper app, by the way, guys. And you had T.Y. Hilton leave the game with a quad injury. So,
that's Jacoby's boy.
Yeah, exactly. And also, another big-time surprise performance is Austin Hooper. Had a real nice day, and if you're streaming him, you were very pleased. If you drafted him later on, then he finally paid off for you with about 20 fantasy points. And, guys, I don't know what games you're watching right now, but I've been watching the debut of Daniel Jones, and I can't say he's looked great, but he certainly has looked pretty good, and he, like you said, is giving this team a spark with his mobility. He has a rushing touchdown already.
He hasn't Eli'd, basically.
Has he thrown the ball over 25 yards yet?
Well, I think
he got 96 yards
behind here, but he just took a nice deep shot.
Like a deep shot, because Eli wouldn't even throw the ball. I don't care if it was attempted or not. Like, just throwing it like that is more than Eli would do, and it makes the defense actually have to respect the deep pass.
That's very true.
Let me take a gander while you guys talk real quick.
Well, because I have the Saints Seahawks game on down up here in the UP.
You still got the antenna with aluminum foil on it?
No, I have a frickin' Roku, you jackass.
Unfortunately, I know I tweeted earlier that I gave my brother-in-law some good advice by having him bench Miles Sanders. The only problem is I also had him bench Shady McCoy, who ended up with 2 touchdowns. So my bad on that one, guys. But I mean,
Jay, to your question, yes, Daniel Jones has thrown a pass for 26 yards.
See, there you go. Their offense is already in better hands. Shut up, people.
Sorry, Dylan. Didn't mean to interrupt you on there. I just had to. Oh yeah. Hey, my pick panned out of the. Let's see. Where was I?
Now you're just
Atlanta losing to Indy. No. I had to look for the game. I brain farted for a second. Nope. Indy beat Atlanta by 3, man.
Wow.
You guys, you definitely. You proved me wrong. They proved me wrong. Indy is a tougher team than I thought. I thought the losing leader on defense like Leonard and Jabal Shear would have a big impact. And Devonta Freeman actually ended up having a fairly nice day. I mean, I don't think it's time to give up on him fantasy-wise yet. He did have 18
Give
carries.
up on Devonta Freeman.
Joe Smith only had 1 carry. So I don't think it's time to give up on Devonta just yet. Julio Jones with a typical Julio day. He tore it up, but yeah, I mean, the Colts are scrappy, and with Jacoby Brissett, man, they look, I'm not going to say this team is as good as they would be with Andrew Luck, but dang, I mean, they look just fine and still have a legit chance at winning this division.
Yep.
Well, I will say this, though.
They look decent.
Wait a second here. Stop. Wait a second, too, Dylan.
You wait a second.
Like, part of these two is some of these teams are still going to end up crappy that ended up winning. Like, that are looking decent or are looking like they're better than we thought. The long-term prognostication here could still be correct, Dylan, because honestly, we're now getting out and finalizing our preseason regular season stretch here. So, I mean, some of these wins and some of these games are just catching a team early in the season. They haven't found themselves, and they lose to a team that ends up being a top 15 drafting team, and you know what I'm saying. So like,
well, the Falcons are that bad though.
Well, I already said the Falcons at the beginning. Everybody was like last week, oh, look at the Falcons. I'm like, no, they still look like a team that doesn't, like, they're on their way down the tubes. But I'm just saying, like, for the most part, like, you should know the teams that, whether it applies to the first 3 weeks being preseason. I mean, let's be real. You know the Patriots are going to be good. You know, once the Packers get their offense going, you can tell already they're going to be good. They have a defense. Like, they're going to be a complete team. They're going to be good. You know the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be good. You know the LA Rams are going to be good. You know the Seahawks are going to be pretty good this year. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of what the scores and stats say, and what their positive or negatives, like we do when we're breaking down tape and stuff, are, there's teams that are going to be good. There's other teams that, like, yeah, we don't think they're going to be good, and like you're saying, they're surprising you, but it doesn't mean you're wrong overall at the end of the season, Dylan.
Well,
not to be a wet blanket.
No, I was going to say, I don't want to seem like I'm arguing either, but I think that 2 good narratives working in the Colts' favor are, you had the mess that was the Andrew Luck retirement happening right before the start of the regular season. You go on the road, and I believe they won that game, if I'm not mistaken, in overtime against the Chargers.
Houston the Chargers, that's what it was, yes.
So, I mean, already right there, you have a real, a nice notch in your belt, a good start to the season, and then today, taking on, a tough Atlanta offense at home without your defensive captain and winning that game pretty decisively, really. I mean, I know the score ended up a little closer than the game actually played out. So I think it's a good sign for this Colts team for things to come. Now, like you said, do I think they're good enough to beat the Chiefs or the Patriots right now? Absolutely not. But at least they could get to the big dance if they end up winning this division with, you know, Minshew and Mariota and
my pick's Minshew.
Deshaun Watson not getting protected in Houston.
This division as a whole is going to be kind of fun to watch play out this whole season. I think, you know, like just as a side note, that since we're all NFC guys, it'll be interesting just to watch these teams and kind of see how the division race and how it all ends up panning out. It's going to be very fun, I think, as an outside, you know, interest person.
Now, if let's play this scenario out with Houston Texans. We know that, you know, Bill O'Brien basically played GM throughout the off season. If Seattle ends up making the playoffs, if Jadeveon Clowney finishes with double-digit sacks, and you know, we see Deshaun Watson keep taking hits like he has in the Laramie Tunsil trade, I mean, is this a case where you could see Bill O'Brien out by next year?
Can I say this before Dave says anything? I don't care if they make the playoffs or not. If whoever the new GM is, I don't care what happens with this team. Even if they win the Super Bowl, I would be looking for my next head coach. I do not know. At this point, I don't believe that Bill O'Brien, with everything he's done, is ever going to be anything more than an average head coach. He's a step above Jeff Fisher, and I think if you
I wouldn't go that low. Good God.
He is a step above Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher made it.
Jeff Fisher's one of the worst coaches.
Jeff Fisher's made it to a freaking Super Bowl, pal.
Thank you to Aaron McNair. That's why.
Has Bill O'Brien made it past anywhere in the playoffs? So I'm sorry. I have
an argument to that. Nope.
Hey, butthead. I am actually giving Bill O'Brien more credit, even though he hasn't done as much in the playoffs and making it to a Super Bowl, by saying he's a step above. Fisher he was the same type. I'm saying that type, where his football knowledge and his results, I believe, are better, but I don't think he's ever going to win you a game, be a consistent playoff contender with him. And actually consistently win playoff games, and I don't think he's ever going to get and win you the big game. He doesn't ever feel like he makes continuous adjustments to his off-season program. To this offense doesn't look like it's grown any, or changed any, or developed any, or it's the same song and dance. It's the definition of insanity. I'm sorry, this is Watson's second, third year now. There should be more progression there, and he's a good enough quarterback. It's the same shit, Dave. I would be looking to get him out of town and look at somebody that's going to protect my investment before this guy ends up either hurting my quarterback or mentally and just mechanically turning him into Matthew Stafford, where he's got all the talent in the world but doesn't have a good enough habits in his mechanics to be a quality, elite quarterback according to what his talent level is.
Can I extend on the Jeff Fisher take?
You can, but you're
no. All right. So Tennessee had Aaron McNair, they had Kevin Dyson, Frank Wycheck, and they had all these weapons that made Fisher look good. Did he ever go back to a Super Bowl since then? No. He basically ruined Vince Young's career.
Are you trying to use?
You had your turn, right?
Are you trying to use players like hello, Dylan? Do you want to start naming Nuke?
Can I have my argument?
They've had plenty of players there. They've got a defense.
Can I have my argument?
Don't try to use.
I gave you your turn. I gave you your turn. Let me finish. Vince Young was a promising young player. And Jeff Fisher is the reason why Vince Young's career went to crap. On top of that, you go look at the argument when he was the Rams. He had Keenum, Goff, and what was the other one that ended up going to the playoffs the next year after they left the Rams? There was multiple quarterbacks that he hindered in their career. Goff could be farther in his career right now if it wasn't for Fisher. That's why he was fired. That's why he's not coaching anywhere. He is crap. He's not average. He is crap. Jeff Fisher, no. Not anymore. The next year